My name is Andrea Durham. I'm founder of Minority Women in Sports Medicine. We're like a nonprofit in the Washington, D.C. area. So for those people who don't know who Jasmine Thomas is, please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you kind of got started playing basketball.
Well, I'm Jasmine Thomas from Northern Virginia. My dad's side of the family's from the DC area, mom's from Northern Virginia. So I grew up, born and raised in the DMV. Got started playing basketball because my older brother played and I was always being dragged to the gym to watch him. And I thought, hey, like, why can't I try this out? So his first coach was actually my first coach. And just been playing ever since.
Okay, cool. Like, so, I mean, you said you've been playing ever since, but is this always like what you knew you wanted to do? Like, when did you say, okay, hey, I definitely think I want to play professionally?
I mean, when I was young, so before I started playing when I was 10. So before then I was a reader. I would, I did the book it and I would get the pizzas and do all that. I was real into reading. But I was always athletic. So my dad would race me against the kids in the neighborhood. And that was just fun for him to see that, here's my kid. She doesn't really care about sports, but she's an athlete by nature. So when they put me in basketball, I picked it up kind of naturally and it was fun, but it was the only sport I had ever done. And even growing up through middle school, through high school, I only ever played basketball. So once I noticed, when you're younger, your talent kind of sets you apart from the rest kind of early. So I knew that my first goal was to go to a D1 college. So that was kind of what I always strived for. I never really thought about the WNBA until my junior year of college.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's kind of late. Like now kids are like, 10 years old, like I'm going to play in the W, which is amazing, right? That speaks to how far, the W has come, in recent years for sure. That's crazy. Not to your junior year.
Yeah, I mean, I knew about it. I obviously went to NBA games. I was a fan of the game, but, actually seeing myself be a pro, I didn't know, I was competitive. I worked hard. I tried to get better at my game every year. But once the, conversation started happening, then it started to feel more real my junior year.
Yeah. And it's amazing that you say that. And it kind of like leads into my next question here is, so who you are today, given your level of success, everything that you've been able to accomplish thus far, are you who you envisioned you'd always be, or have you flourished into something, much different?
I mean, I definitely think like the total view of my career has been something different. I didn't imagine that I'd be able to have the amount of impact that I have had on and off the court. But I will say, I talk about myself being that kid that wasn't really, into sports, but was always athletic. So I feel that full circle moment as, all the things that I was interested in when I was a kid before basketball are coming to fruition as an adult. So giving back to my community, being involved in that aspect, traveling, reading, writing, those are all still things that I am able to do at a higher level with the platform and the exposure that I have now.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear as well, because I know that I love asking that question because I love hearing people's responses where they're like, yeah, I never envisioned I'd be here. I never envisioned, that I'd be working here or doing this or being able to accomplish that. So I love hearing people's answer. And we'll kind of shift a little bit here. So our Change the Game campaign, right, was designed to highlight minority women who have made a significant contribution to the sports world. So I want to know, like, how you feel when you hear that you're a game changer, meaning that because of what you've been able to accomplish, young women behind you might have an easier path.
I mean, it's an honor, I feel like to be in that conversation, to be labeled as a game changer is definitely an honor, but it's also a huge responsibility. That's something that we owe, to our community, especially to brown girls, is to give them, role models and people that they can look up to that come from situations that they come from, that, know the experiences that they have and still found a way to be successful, not only for themselves, but like you said, to give it back, to that kind of, you're not just opening the door for yourself, you're leaving it open. That phrase always sticks with me when I see it, when I hear it, when I read it, it really hits deep. It's like, people opened up doors for me, and now I want to be able to do that same thing for young girls.
Yeah, like not creating opportunities just for yourself, but also making sure that we're constantly creating for the young women that will come behind us. Yes, definitely. So, I'm a huge fan of the W. I have been for nearly like 10 years now. And like I said before, it's amazing to see how far it's come in the last like 10 years. I love seeing, the platform is huge now. Like you guys' time is like right now, and it's amazing to see it kind of flourish. And I will say that one of the things that we admire about you is that not only are you a professional athlete, playing all year round pretty much, but your like philanthropic endeavors have never taken a back seat, which is, I'm like, oh, that is the definition of a game changer. I'm doing, I'm still at the highest level, but I'm also creating opportunities for and creating opportunities for my community. So can you speak to some of the projects you're currently involved in and why that means so much to you?
I think at my core, that is just who I am. I'm a lover, I'm a giver. I'm like that in my personal relationships. And so I feel that way just about society in general. And I think what hits home for me is, the breast cancer cause. I have a family with a huge history of breast cancer. We've lost some people and we've had some survivors, my mom being the closest one to me. So for me, my partnership with the KL Cancer Fund is a huge one. It's the biggest one. It's the one that I've, been able to successfully implement into the W through our players union. So I'm super proud of that one, but also that's one that's like very, very close to home for me. And then I have the Good Game Foundation, which is a startup organization that I'm involved. Sorry, you can see my dog back there looking out the window.
No worries.
Yeah, so I have the Good Game Foundation, which is a startup organization bringing athletes together in some form of a coalition together to fight toward causes that we're passionate about. And then there's Sharing Shoes, which is an organization based out of Fairfax, Virginia, where I'm from. And basically they collect and donate shoes to young athletes that otherwise don't have the resources and access to shoes just to play ball. So, everything kind of it's close to me. I'm one of those people that only like to get involved with things that are authentic to me. I don't like to just put a face on it. I don't like to just, tweet about it, Instagram about it, and only promote without hands-on behind the scenes being involved. So that's just a few of the things that I have going. And, this summer was a big opportunity for me to really put a lot of attention to those things.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? Because like I said, you're playing 12 months out of the year, pretty much. You're overseas, you're here, you're kind of back and forth. So to be able to still have everything around you kind of flourish, I think that speaks to, not only you as a person, but your time management, how well you kind of, because it's a lot to, especially managing multiple different projects at the same time. I think people sometimes take that for granted. Especially with athletes, they automatically assume like, oh, somebody's doing everything for them. And I'm like, no, like some of these athletes are, all in on their stuff and they're approving everything and making sure things are right. And they're like, well, don't put that out unless you talk to me first. So it's a huge thing. And it's amazing to see that you've been able to stay at the top of your game as well as, helping the community as well. So I want to kind of ask you, so did you ever feel, you've been playing basketball for a long time now. Did you ever feel as though there were any limitations placed on what you could accomplish as a Black female athlete? A lot of the women in our program and just our kind of following in general are former athletes. And now they are in a different realm as far as your athletic trainers, your physical therapists, your strength and conditioning coaches on the helping side. Essentially now. And I know we hear stories a lot of times about them not feeling worthy in certain spaces or them not feeling like worthy of being there or not feeling confident in who they are. So I want to know, like, did you ever feel as though there were kind of limitations placed on what you could accomplish?
I feel like as an athlete, not so much, just because that's one of the things we love about the W. It's predominantly made up of Black women. So I've always looked at this league as a place that that accepts me, that's open to me, that is a space where I can be myself and have opportunity. But at the same time, where I felt the limit was more so in marketability. I think that's some conversations that we've had over the years is, a league full of, Black faces, and still more of the deals and the marketing being geared toward white women. So if I had to say a space where I felt those limits, it would be in that area. But speaking to, credit to the W for how far it has come in these last 10 years, that's changing. You're seeing that changing a lot with, obviously with the talent speaks for itself. When you have your MVPs, your all-stars, that's a different category. Those things are earned. It's more just kind of sharing stories of other players, making sure, it's not just the 1% that get recognition, that get to tell their experiences, but all the way down. Everyone is getting to do that. And I feel that happening now, but I can't say that was the case all the time.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear the stories about people who you may not have heard about otherwise, because not everyone is getting that marketability in college either. So when they come into the W, maybe you don't know much about them. Maybe the W gives them a platform to kind of tell their story. But I want to piggyback off that and ask you, so how did you mentally counter that? Did you have a mental battle with yourself as far as not feeling, well, maybe I need to change it up, or maybe I just don't need to be in that space? How did you mentally counter that?
I think just being more vulnerable. I think that kind of maybe doesn't sound like what the answer would be, but authentically really sharing myself, whether that's on social media, in conversations, just truly sharing my experience and not feeling like I have to say it or show it in a certain way to be acceptable. I think that's something that really in 2020 is what really allowed me to really get outside my comfort zone and start to do those things. But I think mentally that's what I did. I just, stopped worrying about what people thought about me and really started just living like myself.
Yeah, that's huge. Because that's when your, greatest blessings come, when you're just, being authentic to you, staying within yourself. That's huge. One of the things that our Change the Game campaign also encompasses is we try to stress to young women the importance of using their voice, right? And you kind of spoke to it a little bit, the importance of kind of finding your voice and being able to, speak it freely, unencumbered by, what other people may think or say, or, their opinions of what you are actually saying. So I want to know, when did you find your voice? And what would you say to young women who might be kind of struggling to find themselves?
I will say part of my nature is pretty outspoken. I feel like, when I feel confident and passionate about something, I'm going to speak up about it. But I will say, like I said, in 2020, in terms of social justice, that was really the first time where private conversations that have been happening in my home my entire life, I felt comfortable kind of saying out loud. And I think that was having that sisterhood of the W really backing us and no, it's time that we really, speak up. And I think in doing that and having some of those conversations, I'm a player rep for the WNBA. And so being in those safe spaces and really finding ways to express myself, but also getting the terminology. Sometimes I think that's the biggest thing is, what you want to say, what you represent, who you are, but sometimes you can't vocalize it. So I think 2020 was definitely a time for me where I kind of came into my own and felt confident in sharing, private things and, standing behind them firmly. Yeah, I would say in 2020.
Yeah. And given your current platform, did you feel as though there was a pressure that came with you speaking out about certain things?
There's definitely a pressure just because our following is usually, people follow you as an athlete. They're fans. There's some people that have, known you or, close friends and family. But for the most part, along your career, you develop a lot of fans that are a fan of the product, not necessarily the person. So when you start sharing these things, you start learning, what your following is made up of. You start having some tough conversations behind the scenes in your DMs, maybe comments, just kind of, striking a chord. And I think the pressure that comes with that is being able to kind of stay composed, not waver, not feel pressure to okay, now I can't talk about these things because X, Y, and Z might happen. When you're doing the right thing, you should always stand firm in doing that right thing. But I will say another aspect of that pressure is we're still human. We still need time off. We still can't post about everything. We still can't talk about we need breaks too. And I think us as Black women especially need to understand that it's okay when we need to, just be quiet and take a rest. Finding your voice doesn't mean that you always have to talk. You still can have that time to yourself to kind of just process, check out, go offline and heal, recharge yourself, and then come back to it after. So I feel like it's a balance that we still have to find.
Yeah. And it's a very delicate balance, right? Like between when you should say something and when you should just kind of, pull back. But that's huge what you said about, making sure that you don't always have to say something. Like, yes, you know who you are. Yes, you're utilizing your voice and you have permission to do so in every space, but you don't always have to say every single thing when you feel it. So I think that's a huge balance, especially as we continue to grow as women and get older and learn more things about ourselves. It's important to kind of know, say something or kind of hold back. So our next question here is, I want to talk about like legacy a little bit, right? For all of our game changers, we always like to ask them, what is it that they hope to leave behind? So when it's all said and done and you decide to, walk away from basketball, whenever that may be, because you're still, in your prime, what do you hope your legacy will be? Like, what does that look like for you?
I mean, I guess I hope that my legacy is that I impacted the community. I think people are going to remember, they can see your highlights. They can, your name will be on those rosters of successful teams and the accolades will always be there. So people can remember your basketball legacy through, just film and stats and, accolades, but it's what you do off the court. It's how you affect your community, your families, what difference you can make off the court that I want to be, remembered by the most. I think that's something that, is really, really important to me. I think it's really, really important to a lot of women in the W. It's why it's a community I'm proud to be a part of. But yeah, that's a legacy I want to leave. I think if people feel like I made their lives better just by being in it, just by knowing me, just by having conversations with me, I think that's a pretty good legacy to leave.
Absolutely. I love asking that question because I will say that this is our second year doing the campaign. And I don't think when we've asked that legacy question that one person has ever said that their legacy involves what they do career-wise, right? It's so much bigger than that. It's so much who you are as a person. It has little to do of what, you get up every day and do, but how you impact people and make people feel. So I love asking that question. And that's a great answer. And it's a learning experience for people too, to learn, how are you making people feel? How are we impacting people? And that's the legacy that we're going to leave. So I will ask you as we kind of wrap up here, what's your biggest piece of advice to young women who may be interested in a career in sports? Maybe that's not necessarily an athlete, but any realm for sure.
I feel like this is the biggest thing I've had to tell myself. So it's always my biggest piece of advice for others, especially women, is stay away from comparison. I think that is the toughest thing, because you have these people that are, places that you want to be. So it's natural to kind of say like, I want to have these things. I want to have a life like this. I want to do things like this. I want these accomplishments like this person, but everybody's journey looks different. Everybody's, obstacles and adversity that they might go through to get there is different. So you can't just be focused on, what people show you through this era of social media, where you can kind of, want these things that people have without realizing that the path to get to them is different. So I would just say, be confident in yourself, stay focused on your journey, your goals that you should definitely set, whether that's month to month, year to year, goals should change. They should get bigger, but, don't compare yourself to the next person, because what's for you is going to always be for you.
Yeah, so hard. So hard. It really is though. And I don't think that that's something that you really get over. I don't care how old you are. You know what I mean? It's always a constant struggle with, okay, I'm not going to compare myself, to this person who's on, chapter 13 and I'm on chapter 5 kind of thing. So I tell women that all the time. I was like, it doesn't really get any easier. You just learn to better deal with it as it comes up. Well, I guess we were going to kind of wrap up there. I appreciate your time so much. You have no idea. I was like, we got to get her on. We got to, I'm loving talking about all of your philanthropic things that you're doing. It's great to see. It's inspiring. And I wish you nothing but the best with the rest of safe travels back here as well.
Thank you.
And then I hope, one day we can touch base again. But I will
Yeah.
be in touch with all of the features and everything. So.
Okay, perfect. This was great. And it was some questions that I've not answered or had asked for me. So it was cool. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Yeah, I was like, she always answers basketball questions, but these are more like, life and, what you want to leave behind. So definitely something different for sure.
I appreciate that. And keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.